Have you ever felt like no matter how much effort you put in, people still don't respect you? You're kind, always available when others need help, yet what do you get in return? Indifference. Or worse, disregard. Maybe you've misunderstood one essential truth: respect doesn't come from what you do for others, it comes from how you treat yourself. Respect isn't something you demand. You can't order it into existence. It's something you earn, a reward given only to those who live with integrity, discipline, and self-respect. And if there are habits in your life that slowly corrode these values, then it's time to let them go. Because only when you remove what drags you down will you rise to the level where real respect can meet you. Let me be brutally honest with you. Most people, no matter how hard you try, will never respect you. That might be hard to hear, but it's the truth. You can exhaust yourself, bend over backward, stay up late helping others, be the dependable one, and still be overlooked, still be underestimated. Why? Because respect isn't just about what you do. It's about who you are becoming. And even more than that, it's about the habits you carry, day in and day out. I know this not because I read it in a book, but because I lived it. I used to think that being nice, agreeable, and always present for others would earn me respect. That if I kept saying yes and tried hard to be liked, people would value me. But the opposite happened. The more I tried to please everyone, the smaller I became in their eyes. I made myself invisible by trying to be everything. It wasn't until I stopped and looked in the mirror, really looked, that I realized I had to cut out the habits that were undermining my own worth. I had to stop making excuses. Stop chasing validation. Stop giving away my power just to feel accepted. Respect didn't show up overnight. But something strange happened the moment I stopped trying to win it from others, and started earning it from myself. People began treating me differently. Not because they changed, but because I did. Here's the core truth: respect doesn't begin out there, it begins inside. If you don't expect more from yourself, don't be surprised when no one else does either. Now is the time to get real with yourself. Face the habits that quietly steal your strength, and let them go, once and for all. But once you start letting go of those self-sabotaging habits, something shifts. That's when real change begins. That's when respect starts to find its way to you, not because you begged for it, but because you became the kind of person who commands it. And it all starts with habit number 1, always making excuses. Let's be honest here. Making excuses is the fastest and most reliable way to lose people's respect, and to lose control of your own life. It's a habit we all fall into. You might not even realize you're doing it because, on the surface, your excuse sounds completely reasonable. Maybe you were late because of traffic. Maybe a teammate didn't send you the file on time. Maybe you were tired, or something unexpected came up. It happens, right? But here's the raw truth that many don't want to hear: no one really cares about your excuses. The world doesn't respect your reasons. It respects your results. I remember a phase in my life when I had an excuse ready for everything. Every single thing that went wrong, I had a story for it. I'd show up late and blame it on construction delays. Miss a deadline? I'd say my computer crashed. Even when I genuinely believed my reasons were valid. The pattern was always the same: I wasn't delivering. And over time, people noticed. My friends started to hesitate before making plans with me. My boss stopped trusting me with critical tasks. Even my family began to quietly count me out of responsibilities. I could feel the respect slipping away, slowly, silently, and I had no idea why. But looking back, it's clear. I was so busy trying to explain why things didn't happen that I never stopped to ask, why did I allow it to keep happening? Excuses don't protect your reputation. They erode it. They tell people, I'm not in control. I can't manage my time. I'm not dependable. And once people see you as unreliable, it's incredibly hard to reverse that image. Whether you're late because you overslept or because traffic was a nightmare, in the end, you still weren't where you were supposed to be. And that's on you. The moment that realization hit me, it felt like a punch to the gut. I couldn't blame anyone else anymore. It wasn't the world, or the traffic, or bad luck. It was me. I was letting myself off the hook, again and again, and expecting others to just understand, to accept it. But people don't respect someone who always needs a way out. They respect someone who owns their mistakes, shows up anyway, and figures it out. That's when I made a decision: no more excuses. And that one choice began to rebuild the respect I had lost. Here's something that feels both freeing and a little painful to accept: the world doesn't owe you anything. Not a second chance. Not understanding. Not even a moment of patience. What it does respect, deeply and consistently, is accountability. And nothing reveals your true character faster than how you handle your own mistakes. I'll never forget a moment that changed everything for me. I had shown up late. Again. Same old story. I blamed traffic. Like I always did. I thought it was a reasonable explanation. Even expected some sympathy. But then someone looked me straight in the eye and asked, "Then why didn't you leave earlier?" It hit me like a cold slap. They weren't being rude. They were being honest. Brutally honest. And they were absolutely right. In that moment, something clicked inside me. I realized that every time I made an excuse, I was sending a clear message, not just to them, but to myself: I'm not responsible for my own life. How could I expect respect from anyone else if I wasn't even owning my own actions? That was the turning point. Excuses aren't just words. They're a mindset. A subtle but powerful declaration that says, it wasn't my fault. I'm the victim here. And when you live in that mindset long enough, you start to believe it. You start to give away your power. One excuse at a time. But here's the beauty of accountability: once you take it back, everything starts to shift. When I finally stopped making excuses, when I looked someone in the eye and said, yeah, that was on me. I'll do better, I saw a change. Not just in how they treated me, but in how I saw myself. I wasn't trying to dodge responsibility anymore. I was standing in it. People began to trust me again. Slowly but surely. The cracks in my credibility started to mend. It wasn't about being perfect. I still made mistakes. But now, I owned them. No more traffic stories. No more blaming a rough morning or unexpected delays. Just as simple. That's my fault, I'll fix it. And you know what? People respond to that. They don't need you to be flawless. But they do need to know that you're real, responsible, and grounded. That you won't hide behind excuses when things go wrong. Because the truth is, no one respects someone who constantly points fingers. But they will respect someone who raises their hand and says, that's on me. Here's the takeaway: you have to stop lying to yourself before you can expect anyone else to believe in you. Every time you choose an excuse over accountability, you reinforce the belief that you're not in control, that you're just drifting, waiting for life to change instead of creating the change yourself. And nothing destroys respect faster than someone who won't take the wheel of their own life. And let's be honest, if you don't even believe you have control over your life, why would anyone else believe in you? Why would they trust you, rely on you, or respect you? Respect is rooted in three things: reliability, accountability, and self-respect. Without those, everything else is just surface. If you keep hiding behind excuses, Even the most polished words or charming personality won't cover up the truth. People will see through it. And once they do, the respect you long for will always stay just out of reach. So the next time you feel that excuse rising in your throat, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, do I want to protect my ego or grow into someone worth respecting? Then take ownership, fully. Even if it's uncomfortable. Especially if it's uncomfortable. Breaking the excuse habit isn't easy. It's deeply ingrained. But once you do, once you consistently step up and own your actions, you'll be surprised at how quickly the world around you begins to shift. People start treating you differently. And perhaps more importantly, you start seeing yourself differently. And now, it's time to look at another habit, one that's just as destructive but even sneakier. Habit number 2, being lazy. If this one stings, good. That means it matters. Let me tell you something that might sound cold. But it's absolutely true. If you're lazy, no one will respect you. And honestly, they shouldn't. That might sound brutal. But think about it. You can have all the potential in the world. You can be talented, gifted, creative, intelligent, even brilliant. But if you spend your days scrolling, procrastinating, waiting for motivation to strike, none of that matters. Potential is useless without action. People don't respect talent. They respect effort. Laziness is the ultimate betrayal of your own potential. It's telling the world, yeah, I could be great, but I won't. I've been there. I know what it feels like to coast on natural ability. I used to think I could outsmart hard work. I told myself, I'm smart enough to get by. I don't need to grind like everyone else. And it worked, for a while. I got decent results with minimal effort. I was just good enough to float. But floating gets you nowhere. Sure. People might have said, he's talented. Or he has potential. But no one took me seriously. Not really. Because deep down, people don't admire what you could be. They admire what you choose to become, through action, consistency, and sweat. I'll never forget the day that truth hit me like a punch to the chest. It was during a group project. Everyone was pulling their weight, staying late, asking questions, showing up early. Everyone except me. I figured I could show up near the end, say a few smart things, and skate by like always. But the energy was different this time. People noticed. They didn't say anything directly, but I could feel the shift, the glances, the way no one asked for my opinion, the way they moved forward without me. And when we presented, I was just there, not needed, not respected. That's when I understood something painfully clear. Laziness doesn't just make you less effective, it makes you invisible. And invisibility kills respect. Effort, even imperfect effort, is magnetic. It shows commitment. It shows hunger. It shows that you care. And people respect those who care enough to try. Especially when it's hard. When we finally presented the project, everyone's efforts were crystal clear. The preparation, the late nights, the attention to detail, it all showed. Except in my part. And the moment we stepped down from that presentation, the room shifted. I didn't need anyone to say anything. The looks, quiet, polite, but heavy, said it all. The disappointment in their eyes wasn't loud, but it cut deep. It was the kind of disappointment that doesn't need words. And in that moment, it hit me, I hadn't just let the team down, I had let myself down. It wasn't really about the project anymore. It was something bigger. It was about how I'd shown up, or rather, how I didn't. People could see the truth. I wasn't doing my part. I wasn't pulling my weight. I was there, but I wasn't truly in it. And because of that, I lost something more valuable than a good grade or outcome, I lost their respect. Here's the brutal reality about laziness, it's visible. Loud and clear. Even when you think it's not. You might tell yourself, no one's really paying attention. You might believe you're getting away with it. But they see it. They see when you're cutting corners. They notice when you're avoiding the hard stuff. When you're always one step behind. Just enough to coast but never enough to carry. They notice. And once they notice, they start adjusting their expectations. And that's where the real damage begins. They stop asking for your input. They stop relying on you. They stop expecting excellence, or anything at all. And when people no longer expect anything from you, they no longer respect you. Plain and simple. Because laziness doesn't just harm your reputation, it spreads. It drags down the energy of a group. It frustrates those who are giving their all. And it signals something deep and dangerous, that you've chosen ease over effort. Comfort over growth. That's the real message here. Laziness is a form of self-sabotage. It's not just about feeling tired. Or not being in the mood. It's a mindset, a belief that you can skate through life without ever digging deep. That showing up halfway is enough. But every time you choose laziness, you're making a statement to yourself, I'd rather stay small than push through. You're choosing short-term ease at the cost of long-term respect. And trust me, no one respects someone who refuses to grow. They may like you. They may tolerate you. But they won't admire you, not until they see you sweat, grind, and rise. I had to learn this the hard way. For years, I thought that taking the easy road made me clever, that saving energy and doing the bare minimum was a smart strategy. I convinced myself I was outsmarting the system. But what I didn't see back then was that success has nothing to do with shortcuts. It's not about who's the smartest or the most talented. It's about who shows up when it's hard. Who leans in when it's uncomfortable. Who pushes when everyone else quits. That's what earns respect. The ones who are respected are the ones who stay late to get it right. Who raise their hand to take on the tough task. Who keep going even when motivation is gone. They don't just talk about what they could be. They become it, with effort, consistency, and grit. Laziness is the opposite of growth. It's the exact opposite of drive, effort, and accountability, the very things respect is built on. And if you're not willing to push yourself beyond comfort, why should anyone else be willing to respect you? Here's the thing, you can't hide laziness. It bleeds through your words, your body language. Your choices. It shows in how you speak about your work, vague, dismissive, detached. It shows in how you approach challenges, with hesitation, with excuses, or with the silent hope that someone else will do it for you. People can sense when you're coasting. It's obvious when someone's just doing the bare minimum to get by. And whether they tell you or not, they adjust how they treat you accordingly. If you're lazy, don't expect trust. Don't expect to be handed responsibility. Don't expect others to turn to you when things get tough, because deep down, they know you won't rise to the occasion. And that brings us to the next habit. One that might surprise you, because it doesn't always feel like it's connected to respect. But it absolutely is. Habit number 3, neglecting your personal appearance. Now, here's something people won't often say out loud. It might even feel uncomfortable to hear, but it needs to be said. How you present yourself matters. A lot more than you think. If you regularly neglect your personal appearance, if you don't take the time to look after how you show up in the world, then don't be surprised when people don't respect you. I know. Right now, you might be thinking, but isn't it superficial to judge someone based on how they look? And yes, on the surface, It might sound shallow. But let's go deeper. Your appearance isn't just about looks. It's a reflection of how much you respect yourself. How much you value the spaces you walk into. How seriously you take your role in the world. And if you don't respect yourself enough to care, why would anyone else? I used to think differently. I was one of those people who said, it doesn't matter what I wear. People should accept me for who I am, not how I look. So I'd roll out of bed, throw on whatever was clean, barely glance in the mirror, and head out. I told myself I was being real, authentic, down to earth. But the truth? I was just being lazy. And guess what? It showed. People didn't take me seriously. I didn't command attention when I spoke. I didn't give off the energy of someone who was sharp, focused, and ready. I looked and felt like I was dragging myself through the day. Then came the wake-up call. It was an important event, one I should have been excited about. But I walked in with wrinkled clothes, messy hair, and an expression that said I didn't want to be there. I looked exactly like someone who didn't care. And that's how people treated me. Not with hostility, just indifference. They barely noticed me, barely acknowledged me. And why would they? I didn't look like someone worth noticing. That's when it hit me. How you carry yourself on the outside tells the world how you see yourself on the inside. It's not about wearing expensive clothes or looking like a model. It's about effort, intention, pride. When you take care of your appearance, when you walk into a room looking put together, people take notice. They treat you differently. And more importantly, you feel different. You carry yourself with more confidence. And that energy creates its own kind of respect. And that was exactly the energy I gave off, someone who didn't care. The moment I stepped into that room, I could feel the atmosphere shift. The way people glanced past me. The way conversations moved on without me. It was subtle. But it was clear. I wasn't being taken seriously. I wasn't commanding attention. And I certainly wasn't being treated with respect. Meanwhile, others who had shown up well-dressed, groomed, confident, they didn't even have to say a word. They owned the room. Their presence alone did the talking. That moment opened my eyes. I realized that neglecting how I looked wasn't just about me being comfortable. It was costing me something valuable, my credibility. I was losing respect before I even opened my mouth. The impression I gave wasn't one of humility or authenticity. It was one of carelessness. And here's the deeper message, the part that changed everything for me. Your personal appearance is nonverbal communication. It's a silent message you send the world before you say a single word. It says, I respect myself. I take this seriously. I came prepared. When you take care of yourself, when you show up clean, neat, and put together, people notice. Not because you're showing off, but because effort always speaks volumes. And no, it's not about expensive clothes or designer labels. It's not about fashion shows or looking like a movie star. It's about showing that you have enough self-respect to put in effort. That effort is powerful. It tells others that you take yourself, and them, seriously. That you didn't just stumble into the room. You chose to be there. Prepared, present, ready. Think about it. When someone walks into a meeting with messy hair, wrinkled clothes, and that just rolled out of bed look, what's your first thought? Chances are, it's something like, this person doesn't really care. Maybe not intentionally. Maybe they've had a rough morning. But still, the subconscious judgment forms instantly. And whether we like it or not, those impressions stick. Because if someone doesn't seem to care about themselves, we instinctively wonder, will they care about their work, their responsibilities, their relationships? On the other hand, when someone walks in well-groomed, alert, and confident, not flashy, just sharp, it immediately sets a tone of competence and respect. People look. People listen. People pay attention. That's the power of presence. And yes, I get it, this might sound harsh. But this isn't about vanity. It's about self-respect. The way you present yourself externally is often a mirror of how you feel about yourself internally. And when you start showing up for yourself, through discipline, care, and intentionality, others start showing up for you, too. It's about more than just clothes. It's about showing the world, and yourself, that you care enough to put in the effort. That you value who you are. And once you begin to show that self-respect outwardly, others can't help but mirror it back to you. That's a hard truth I had to learn the uncomfortable way. After that embarrassing event, the one where I walked in looking like I hadn't even tried, I made a decision. A conscious, intentional shift. I told myself, no more just showing up. I'm going to show up right. I started dressing with thought, paying attention to the small things, grooming, cleanliness, posture, energy. Not because I was trying to impress anyone, but because I was finally trying to respect myself. And you know what? The change in how people responded to me was almost instant. Suddenly, I was being acknowledged. People looked me in the eye when I spoke. They took my words more seriously. They included me in conversations. But more importantly than all of that, I started taking myself more seriously. Here's the thing people often forget, first impressions matter. Whether we like it or not. We all make judgments in the first few seconds of seeing someone. And one of the strongest signals in that moment is appearance. If you want respect, you have to look like someone who deserves it. Neglecting your appearance, showing up disheveled, unprepared, indifferent, sends a very loud message, I don't care. And the world responds in kind. Because if you don't care, why should anyone else? Here's the bottom line, the truth most people avoid. Taking care of your personal appearance is an act of self-discipline. It's a form of daily commitment. A promise to show up in the world as the best, sharpest, clearest version of who you are. And when you do that, the world starts responding to you with more attention, more seriousness, more respect. But if you constantly show up looking like you've given up, you're telling people, and yourself, that you don't value who you are. And whether you realize it or not, they'll believe you. So stop saying appearance doesn't matter. It does. It always has. And it always will. Respect doesn't start with what you say. It starts with how you carry yourself, inside and out. So take that extra few minutes in the morning. Fix your posture. Choose your clothes with care. Make sure your energy reflects pride, not indifference. Put in the effort. And just watch how people begin to treat you differently. Respect yourself first, and the world will follow. Trust me, nothing will make someone lose respect for you faster than ignoring their boundaries. If you cross that line, even with good intentions, it sends the wrong message, your needs don't matter to me as much as mine do. And I had to learn that the hard way. I used to think that being deeply involved in someone's life was how you showed love, care, and loyalty. That checking in constantly, offering advice without being asked, or inserting myself into someone's emotional situation meant I was being a good friend, a thoughtful colleague, a supportive presence. But the truth? It wasn't thoughtful. It was suffocating. Because what I saw as caring, others experienced as pressure. I didn't realize that by not giving them space, I was actually pushing them away. There was one moment that stands out, one that still stings when I think about it. It was with someone close, We had always shared things, stories, problems, daily updates. But somewhere along the line, I started overstepping. I'd call her constantly, text her about everything, try to help whenever she had the slightest issue. I thought I was being supportive. But in reality, I was intruding on space she hadn't invited me into. One day, she finally said something. Her voice was calm but firm. "I just need some space. It feels like you don't understand that." It hit me like a brick wall. I had crossed a line I didn't even realize was there. And in doing so, I hadn't just made her uncomfortable, I had lost something far more important, her trust, and her respect. That moment changed the way I thought about boundaries forever. Because here's the deeper truth, boundaries are not barriers. They're not about keeping people out. They're about protecting the sacred things inside: mental clarity, emotional balance, personal autonomy. And when you ignore someone's boundaries, what you're really saying is, my need to be involved matters more than your need to feel safe and respected. Now pause for a second and ask yourself, who's going to respect someone who operates like that? Let's dig deeper. Ignoring boundaries isn't just about being a little too pushy. It's about misunderstanding what respect actually means. Respect isn't just about being nice. It's not just about saying kind words or doing favors. Respect is about recognizing that other people are their own people, with their own space, their own time, their own needs, their own right to say no. When someone sets a boundary, they're not rejecting you. They're protecting their peace. And the more you honor that, the more they trust you, because you're showing that you understand something most people overlook. True respect is about stepping back, not stepping in. Once I finally got that, I changed how I showed up in people's lives. I stopped forcing conversations. I stopped texting just to feel connected. I started giving space, real space, and letting others come to me when they were ready. I learned how to hold room for people without filling it with noise. And here's the funny part. When I finally started respecting other people's boundaries, truly honoring them, not just tolerating them, something incredible happened. They started respecting me more. Conversations felt easier. Relationships became more genuine, more open. The tension disappeared. I was no longer seen as the one who couldn't take a hint or didn't know when to back off. Instead, I became someone people wanted to be around. Someone they could trust, because I had learned how to listen, observe, and give space. And it's not just in personal relationships. Boundaries show up everywhere, especially in the workplace. Maybe you've got a coworker who prefers working independently. They thrive when they're left alone to do their thing. But you keep popping over, asking for updates every 30 minutes, thinking you're staying in the loop. Or perhaps your boss values brevity and direct communication. But you keep flooding their inbox with long emails, overloading them with details they didn't ask for. You think you're being thorough, but really, you're overstepping. In both cases, you're not just being involved, you're being disruptive. And here's the truth. When you don't respect someone's preferences, space, or time, you're not just annoying them, you're slowly losing their respect. Why? Because what you're really saying is, my way of doing things is more important than your comfort or boundaries. Let's go deeper. Boundaries are not walls to keep you out. They're lines that protect what's inside. Healthy boundaries aren't the end of connection, they're the beginning of healthy, respectful relationships. Because at the core of every strong relationship, whether it's friendship, family, romance, or professional, is mutual respect. And that respect cannot exist without boundaries. If you don't respect someone's limits, You're showing them, consciously or not, that you don't truly value their emotional space, their time, or their right to decide how they interact with the world. Every time you ignore a boundary, you chip away at the trust someone has placed in you. And here's the thing about trust: once it cracks, it doesn't break with a bang, it slips away silently. People won't always confront you. They'll just start to pull back. Conversations grow shorter. Interactions feel colder. And one day, you'll realize they've shut the door quietly and moved on without you. Respect begins with recognition. Recognizing that someone's no means no. That silence might mean they need space. That boundaries, even if unspoken, are real. And when you learn to honor those boundaries, when you don't take it personally, don't push, don't hover, people start to feel safer around you. And safety builds trust. And trust builds lasting respect. So pay attention. Watch for cues. Listen to what people say, and what they don't. Give them room to be themselves without you constantly needing to be in the middle of everything. Because when people feel respected around you, they'll start to respect you, not because you demand it, but because you've earned it. And now, let's talk about habit number 5, taking credit for someone else's work, one of the fastest ways to lose respect. Not just from the person you wronged, but from everyone watching. Why does this habit destroy trust instantly? Early in my career, I was hungry to stand out, to make a name for myself, to prove that I belonged. I wasn't arrogant, but I was ambitious, maybe too ambitious. During one of our team projects, I put in my fair share of effort, no question. But one of my colleagues, she went above and beyond. She carried the weight, handled the details, polished the rough edges, and made sure everything ran smoothly. But when it came time to present the results, I made a choice I later regretted. I didn't lie outright. I didn't fabricate anything. But I carefully framed my words to make it seem like I had done more than I actually had. I placed myself in the spotlight, subtly dimming hers. I made sure the attention, the praise, the recognition, landed squarely on me. And at first, it felt amazing. People were clapping, complimenting, impressed. I was riding a wave of validation. And it felt like everything I had worked for was finally being noticed. But here's the part I didn't expect: the truth always finds a way out. It wasn't long before my colleague realized what had happened. The shift in her tone, her eyes, I could feel the betrayal. Then others began to notice. Whispers, sideways glances, silent doubt began to replace the admiration I had soaked in just days before. The high of that moment faded fast, and in its place came the cold sting of disappointment. Not just from others, but from myself. That moment taught me one of the most important lessons of my professional life. Respect isn't earned through shortcuts. It's earned through integrity, through honesty, through lifting others up, not stepping over them. And here's the deeper message: taking credit for someone else's work doesn't just hurt them, it quietly hurts you even more. When you steal recognition, you're not just being unfair, you're revealing something painful about yourself. I don't believe I'm enough on my own. That kind of behavior doesn't show confidence, it exposes insecurity. It's not power, it's fear, dressed up as ambition. Because if you truly trusted in your own abilities, you wouldn't need to manipulate the spotlight. You'd know that real recognition comes in time, and that your moment will come without needing to take someone else's. But here's the catch: when you try to fast-track success by cutting corners or stealing credit, you're not building respect, you're silently destroying it. People remember that. They talk. They hesitate. And suddenly, your name becomes associated not with talent or leadership, but with self-interest. deception, and unreliability. Think about the long-term damage. You might get short-term praise, but eventually, people will catch on. Colleagues will avoid working with you. Friends won't confide in you. Teams won't trust you. And those bridges? They burn quietly but completely. Because no one wants to share their energy, their ideas, or their vision with someone who can't be trusted to give credit where it's due. Respect is rooted in authenticity. And nothing erodes authenticity faster than stealing what isn't yours. I've seen this play out more times than I'd like to admit, not just in my own life, but in the lives of others around me. Talented people, capable people, good people. And yet, they lost promotions, they lost friendships, they lost golden opportunities that could have changed everything, all because of one pattern. They developed a reputation for taking credit for work that wasn't entirely theirs. And let me tell you something from experience, once that label sticks, it's nearly impossible to shake. Here's the hard truth. When you take credit for someone else's efforts, you're not just stealing the task. You're stealing something much deeper. You're stealing their sense of accomplishment. You're robbing them of that quiet pride, that deeply satisfying moment of being recognized for what they've built with their own hands, heart, and time. And imagine how devastating that is. We all want to be seen, to feel that our hard work means something, that our effort isn't invisible. But when someone steps in and absorbs that recognition, even subtly, even indirectly, it doesn't just sting. It creates a wound. A wound called resentment. A wound called distrust. And wounds like that don't always heal. In the long run, you're not just damaging a moment, you're burning bridges you might desperately need later. Bridges that may never be rebuilt. And let's be honest, taking credit isn't just a mistake, it's a betrayal. It's the unspoken message that says, I saw your effort, but I care more about my spotlight than your recognition. That's a massive breach of trust. And once trust is gone, respect walks right out the door with it. People may not confront you immediately. They might stay polite. They might even clap with the rest of the room. But silently, they remember. They keep score. And over time, your reputation begins to shift, from someone who's impressive, to someone who's inauthentic. And once that shift happens, isolation follows. Here's what I'm not saying. I'm not telling you to minimize your achievements. If you've worked hard, if you've earned recognition, claim it. Stand tall in your own effort. But also, give credit where it's due. Call out the people who helped. Mention the team that supported you. Recognize the effort that wasn't yours, but was essential to your success. Because sharing credit doesn't shrink your success, it amplifies it. It shows confidence. It shows humility. It shows that you're the kind of person who doesn't need to tear others down to feel tall. And that's what people respect. They respect leaders who elevate others. Not climbers who shove people out of the way just to get to the top. Here's the deep truth. Success gained at the expense of others isn't really success at all. It's hollow, temporary. And eventually, it will catch up with you. You may feel like you're winning today, but if the cost is your integrity, your trustworthiness, your relationships, you're losing in the long run. Because real, lasting respect doesn't come from applause. It comes from being the kind of person others trust. The kind of person they want to stand beside. The kind of person who shares the spotlight, not steals it. So, how do you fix this habit if you've been guilty of it? Start by owning it. Admit to yourself, and to others, if needed, that you made a mistake. No sugarcoating. No deflection. If you've taken credit for someone else's work, acknowledge it openly. Reach out. Apologize. Give the person the recognition they deserved all along. Even if it feels awkward. Even if time has passed, that act of humility will speak louder than 100 polished excuses. And from that point forward, make it your standard, always give credit where it's due. If someone helped, say it. If a teammate went above and beyond, highlight it. If your success was the result of collaboration, celebrate the team, not just yourself. You'll be amazed at how far a simple phrase like "I couldn't have done this without" name can go in building trust, loyalty, and lasting respect. Because here's the truth most people miss. Integrity, more than intelligence, talent, or charm, is the foundation of respect. You can be brilliant. You can be charismatic. But if people feel like they can't trust you to do what's right, you'll never hold their respect for long. Taking credit for others' work doesn't make you look successful, it makes you look insecure. It shows you're more focused on appearances than substance. More concerned with looking great than actually being great. But when you give credit, when you lift others up, when you shine the light on the people who helped, you become the kind of person others want to respect. You become known as someone who's grounded, honest, and confident enough to celebrate others without feeling threatened. And that's the kind of person people will trust. The kind of person people will follow. The kind of person they'll admire, not just today, but for years to come. In the end, respect is not something you chase, it's something you attract. It doesn't come from shouting louder, trying harder, or pleasing more people. It comes from stillness, from discipline, from integrity when no one is watching. The Stoics never begged to be admired. They mastered themselves, and the world couldn't look away. So if you truly want respect, don't demand it. Earn it. Quietly, relentlessly, with every small decision you make. Let go of the noise. Drop the mask. And become someone worth following, not because of what you say, but because of who you are when the room goes silent. Thanks for watching. Stay strong. Stay stoic. And remember, your greatest power lies in your ability to control yourself in the end. Respect is not something you chase, it's something you attract. It doesn't come from shouting louder, trying harder, or pleasing more people. It comes from stillness, from discipline, from integrity when no one is watching. The Stoics never begged to be admired. They mastered themselves, and the world couldn't look away. So if you truly want respect, don't demand it. Earn it. Quietly, relentlessly, with every small decision you make. Let go of the noise. Drop the mask. And become someone worth following, not because of what you say, but because of who you are when the room goes silent. Thanks for watching. Stay strong. Stay stoic. And remember, your greatest power lies in your ability to control yourself.